Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Live Podcast. My name is Tony, and today is not going to be interview like you always watch it on this channel. Today it's a very interesting conversation about a lot of stuff, and I cannot think a better guess I can do this with episode. So please welcome Rabbi Rothschild.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, Tony. Yes, absolutely. First and foremost, make sure if you're watching this to subscribe to Tony's channel and like and comment if you find this interesting. Our topic today is on futurism. Firstly, many people don't know what futurism even means. Futurism, as defined, is considered to be a idea that combines economics, technology, and human behavior to study long-term change. Many times, the people who study futurism are known as futurists. A futurist is a person who studies current trends to figure out what might happen next in the world. Futurism is something that could be trend watching, problem solving, but what we are not are psychics. And in addition to being an Orthodox rabbi and Kabbalist, I am a futurist. Moreover, I am someone who is archiving time as we know it. And for anyone who knows anything about me, you may already know this, but for those who don't, I stream my life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on YouTube, live, and have been for nearly 5 years. For anyone who wants to view my streams, you just need to go to YouTube and type in Rabbi Rothschild and make sure that you're filtering by live. And when you do, you will find more live streams of mine than you would ever know could even exist for a single individual. I have many, many live streams from different angles. I have ceiling cameras, you name it. And so as life is going for the last 5 years, I have been archiving it. Now, we use a term quite often, the word time, but we don't really think about it. According to Oxford University Press, and their research on the English language, time is the most frequently used noun in English. Overall, grammar words like the, to, and are used more often, but time beats out all other naming words, meaning nouns. And we reference time a lot, but we don't really think about it. What does it mean? How do we define it? Time is the continuous progression of existence that occurs in an apparently irreversible succession from the past through the present and into the future. Time dictates all forms of action, age, and causality, being a component quantity of various measurements used to sequence events, to compare the duration of events or the intervals between them, and to quantify rates of change of quantities in material reality or in conscious experience. We reference time in science fiction, things like time travel, time machines, and certainly use it in our regular conversation. Are you on time? What time is it? And there are different ways that people keep time. In the past, certainly ways that civilizations kept time were things like perhaps with a sundial, which uses the position of and movement of the sun's shadow to indicate the time of day, or a water clock, also known as a clepsydra, which measures time by the steady flow of water into or out of a container. Of course, there's an hourglass, which measures a fixed interval by allowing sand to fall through a narrow opening. There are candle clocks that use the predictable burning rate of a marked candle to measure elapsed time. Incense clocks, which use slowly burning incense, often with calibrated markings to measure periods of time. Oil lamp clocks, which use gradual consumption of oil to estimate the passage of time. Astronomical clocks, which uses mechanical mechanisms to represent astronomical cycles, sometimes including the sun, moon, planets, and stars. Mechanical clocks, which many of us have in our homes, that use gears, weights, springs, and an escapement mechanism to maintain regular intervals. Pendulum clocks uses the regular swing of a pendulum as its timekeeping reference. Spring-driven clocks store energy in a wound spring and releases it through a regulating mechanism, which are common in watches. Other types, we just have wristwatches, which is a wearable clock designed to be worn in the wrist, or pocket watches, a portable mechanical timepiece designed to be carried in the pocket. And as we move into the modern age, of course, the digital clock becomes much more common, which displays time electronically using numbers rather than traditional clock hands. Of course, the electric clock uses electrical power to operate a timing mechanism or maintain oscillations. And we get into more specific, more accurate clocks, like a GPS clock, which determines extremely precise time using signals from GPS satellites, or an atomic clock, which uses extremely stable atomic transitions as the fundamental reference for measuring time. There are cesium clocks and rubidium clocks, hydrogen maser clocks, optical atomic clocks, astronomical timekeeping, which determines time from Earth's rotation and observations of celestial objects. Of course, we have biological clocks, which use biological rhythms within our natural state, such as circadian clocks and circadian cycles, to regulate an organism's perception and synchronization with time. And of course, we have network time, or internet clocks, which synchronizes computers and digital systems using network-based time protocols and highly accurate reference clocks. Moreover, there are some very advanced clocks that I'd like to reference before we start. And for those who aren't familiar with these are increasingly advanced clocks that are really important, maybe not so much while we're trying to figure out what time my favorite television show may come on, but in terms of traveling great distances into the future. And Tony and I are going to be talking about a lot of futuristic opportunities that mankind may experience over the course of the upcoming years, decades, centuries, millennia, and really far in this series. So there are things like cesium-133 atomic clocks, the traditional primary standard defining the SI second. Rubidium atomic clocks, compact atomic frequency standard, generally less accurate than the best optical clocks. We talked a little bit earlier about hydrogen masers, which are extremely stable microwave frequency references. There are many elemental-based clocks, which certainly can be very accurate. To give people an understanding of a technological ladder, mechanical clocks are really some of the least accurate clocks, even though we rely on them. But then moving towards quartz, then cesium atomic, then hydrogen maser, then optical atomic clocks, optical lattice clocks, single ion optical, quantum entangled optical, nuclear clocks, thorium-229 nuclear clocks, and then future quantum nuclear clocks. To give people an idea, we get really ultra precise with some of these clocks, even into the hypothetical or theoretical concept of what time could be. So the next time that somebody says, "Are you on time?" Is anybody really on time? Does anyone really know what time it is? When we get into things like pulsar clocks that uses the pulsars of rotating neutron stars, or binary pulsar clocks, even getting into Earth rotation clocks, which derives time from Earth's actual rotation relative to distant celestial objects, orbital clocks, planetary ephemeris clocks, which uses precisely modeled planetary motion as a long-term astronomical reference, and cosmic time, or cosmological clocks, a theoretical concept in which large-scale cosmic evolution provides a universal temporal reference. We can get really, really accurate. And many people may ask, well, why would you have to be so accurate? Well, if you are attempting to travel great distances, it's of extreme importance that you have accuracy in terms of the clocks that you're using. So with that little bit of background on time and clocks and timekeeping and such, Tony and I have a very interesting project, and this may be a series that we may be doing on the future. And it was a discussion that he and I had to perhaps in 2026 give what humanity thinks the future will look like in the coming years, coming decades, and further into the future. And we know not everything that we discuss is going to be accurate. In fact, much of it may be inaccurate in some ways, but people should know that at least in the current age, this is what people will think in the future. And people may watch this series years from now, or decades from now, or centuries from now, or perhaps even millennia from now, and think, wow, this is what people thought all the way back in 2026, where we were in the world. For anyone's reference, if you'd like to follow along, Tony is going to be showing on his screen some of the resources that we're using, and we are going to focus on two in particular. One is Wikipedia, and the other is a very interesting website known as futuretimeline.net. I found this website years ago, and I find it fascinating as a predictor of potential events that may happen in the future. So with that, I'm going to ask Tony, are you ready to start on the Wikipedia page for 2027?
Of course, I am ready, and I am very happy to be here with you and start this amazing journey. So yeah, let's go.
Excellent. Very well. Well, starting in 2027, and we should say that it is today, August 8th, and thus these events are potentially going to be in the maybe 4 months or so from now. We should have January 15th to 25th. The 2027 Winter World University Games are scheduled to be held in China. From January 20th to February 7th, the 2027 African Games will be held in Cairo. January 30th, 2027, the 2027 German presidential election is scheduled to be held. March 7th, if not triggered earlier, the next Estonian parliamentary election will occur no later than this date. March 19th to September 26th, the 2027 World Horticultural Expo is scheduled to be held in Yokohama, Japan. April 18th, the 2027 Finnish parliamentary election is scheduled to be held, as well as the 2027 French presidential election. In May of 2027, we will have the 2027 Eurovision Song Contest that is scheduled to be held in Bulgaria. On May 1st, if not triggered earlier, the next Serbian presidential election will occur no later than this date. May 15th to August 15th, Expo 2027 is scheduled to be held in Belgrade, Serbia. June 6th, the 2027 Mexican legislative election is scheduled to be held. June 16th through 27th, Istanbul, Turkey will host the 2027 European Games. June 19th through July 17th, the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations is scheduled to be hosted in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. June 24th through 25th, the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup is scheduled to be held in Brazil. June 25th through July 4th, the 2027 Military World Games will be held in Charlotte, North Carolina in the United States. July 16th through August 1st, Lima, Peru will host the 2027 Pan American Games. And from July 24th to August 8th, the 2027 Pacific Games is scheduled to be held in Tahiti. July 25th, if not triggered earlier, the next Greek parliamentary election will occur no later than this date. August 1st through 12th, the 2027 Summer World University Games will be held in South Korea. August 10th, the 2027 Kenyan general election is scheduled to take place. August 22nd, if not triggered earlier, the next Spanish general election will occur no later than this date. August 27th through September 12th, the 2027 FIBA Basketball World Cup is scheduled to be held in Qatar. September 1st, Pope Leo is expected to celebrate his Golden Jubilee of religious life and be honored. September 28th, if not triggered earlier, is the next Slovak parliamentary election will be held no later than this date. October 1st through November 13th, the 2027 Rugby World Cup will take place in Australia. October 16th through 24th, the 2027 Special Olympics World Summer Games will be held in Santiago, Chile. October 24th, the 2027 Argentine general election is scheduled to be held. October 27th through November 4th, the 2027 Commonwealth Youth Games will be held in Malta. November 11th, if not triggered earlier, the next Polish parliamentary election will occur no later than this date. December 22nd, if not triggered earlier, the next Italian general election will occur no later than this date. And December 31st, if not triggered earlier, the next Serbian parliamentary election will occur no later than this date. Now, there are some events that do not have a set date as of right now. In late 2027, Artemis 3, the second crewed mission of the Artemis program, is scheduled to launch. We have World Youth Day 2027 being held in South Korea. The 2027 Cricket World Cup will take place in South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Namibia. The first Olympic esports games will be held in Riyadh in 2027. That to me is very cool. WrestleMania 43, the first WrestleMania held outside North America, will be held in Riyadh,
Cool.
Saudi Arabia in 2027. The 2027 Arab Games will be held in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and the 2027 presidential election in the Middle East is scheduled to be held. With that, we're going to move on to our sister website, futuretimeline.net. And if I may ask my colleague, Tony, are you ready for futuretimeline.net? Excellent. All right. In 2027, the EU will end all energy imports from Russia, or this is what is predicted. And I want to again say, we don't know any of this for sure. In February 2022, Russia began a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. This led to international condemnations and sanctions, millions of displaced Ukrainians, and the largest armed conflict in Europe since World War II. The US and United Kingdom announced a ban on Russian oil, while the EU announced a 2/3 reduction in its demand for Russian gas. Oil companies Shell, BP, and ExxonMobil suspended all operations in the country. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, previously in favor of the newly completed Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline between Russia and Germany, suspended certification of the project indefinitely. Amid soaring energy prices, Russia's continued aggression against its neighbor, and longer-term concerns over climate change impacts, the EU proposed to go even further than its earlier announcement. The bloc's leaders began drafting a plan to end their reliance on all Russian energy sources by 2027. Finalized in May, the REPowerEU project would completely phase out Russian gas, oil, and coal imports while accelerating the green transition. Until this point, Russian fossil fuels have been used as an economic and political weapon, costing the EU nearly €100 billion per year. The bloc depended on Russia for about 40% of its gas, 27% of its oil, and 46% of its coal imports. The REPowerEU plan included measures to boost energy savings, diversify energy supplies, and accelerate the rollout of renewable energy, all of which could strengthen economic growth, security, and climate action for Europe and its partners. The energy-saving aspect included raising the energy efficiency target for the European Green Deal, a set of policy initiatives by the European Commission approved in 2020, from 9% to 13%. Fiscal measures included reduced VAT rates on energy-efficient heating systems, building insulation, and appliances. The energy diversification aspect would ensure the EU worked with reliable and trusted international partners to minimize supply disruptions. In addition to new gas pipeline deliveries and LNG imports, this included major developments with hydrogen continuing beyond 2027. Finally, most notably, the REPowerEU project called for a massive scaling up of renewables. It proposed a doubling of solar capacity by 2025 and a further 600 gigawatt by 2030, a legal obligation to install solar panels on all new buildings, a doubling of the rate of deployment of heat pumps, and measures to boost both geothermal and solar thermal, shortened and simplified approvals for major renewable projects, and a target of 10 million tons of domestic hydrogen production for use in hard-to-decarbonize industries and transport sectors. By 2027, the EU invested 210 billion euros, or $225 billion, in upgrading its energy infrastructure, allowing it to completely end any dependence on Russia for imports of oil, gas, and coal. Additionally, in 2027, light-duty hydrogen fuel cell vehicles reached $1 million in annual sales. The first vehicles powered by hydrogen fuel cells emerged during the Cold War space race. These were bulky, inefficient, and expensive. However, it was not until the dawn of the 21st century that car manufacturers began to take the concept more seriously. In 2003, President George Bush proposed the Hydrogen Fuel Initiative, HFI, which was later implemented by legislation through the 2005 Energy Policy Act and the 2006 Advanced Energy Initiative. This aimed to further develop hydrogen fuel cells and infrastructure with the goal of producing commercial fuel cell vehicles. By 2008, over $1 billion had been contributed to the project. However, the U.S. Department of Energy later shifted its interest from fuel cells to battery vehicles. High costs and the lack of infrastructure were major problems, compounded by the culture of deploying fuel stations over such a large geographical area. This led U.S. automakers to delay their hydrogen vehicle rollouts. The situation was different in Europe, however, with less geography to cover, and where governments had serious plans to develop the required infrastructure. Japan and South Korea, too, had similar initiatives getting underway. In addition to expanded infrastructure, future advances in technology reduced the size, weight, and cost of hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. By 2027, global sales of these non-polluting vehicles have reached 1 million annually for the first time. Although still only a tiny proportion of total overall vehicle sales, the industry is now entering a period of explosive growth. Also in 2027, Tokyo and Nagoya are connected by high-speed Maglev. Two of Japan's largest cities, Tokyo and Nagoya, are now connected by the Chūō Shinkansen, a high-speed Maglev route. This 178-mile, 286-kilometer line runs beneath the Japanese Alps, the Akaishi Mountains, at speeds of up to 313 miles per hour, or 505 kilometers per hour, enabling journey times of just 40 minutes. Built by the Central Japan Railway Company at a cost of 9 trillion yen, or $115 billion, the route will be extended to Osaka by 2045. The next event will be the launch of the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. In 2027, NASA launches a new space telescope, the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, formerly known as the Wide Field Infrared Survey Telescope, WFIRST. It is named after the first female executive at NASA, who served as the agency's chief of astronomy throughout the 1960s and 1970s and played a key role in planning for the Hubble Space Telescope. Shortened as Roman, or the Roman Space Telescope, its 5-year mission aims to address cutting-edge questions in two main areas, the universe and exoplanet research. By measuring the precise distances and shapes of millions of galaxies, it provides insights into dark energy, the mysterious force that is accelerating the expansion of the universe. It probes the chronology of the universe, the growth of cosmic structure, the consistency of general relativity, and the curvature of space-time. In addition, it finds thousands of new exoplanets using the microlensing technique, which includes planets with masses as small as Mars, as well as free-floating or rogue planets. This complements the discoveries made by other telescopes like Kepler, TESS, and the next generation of missions, providing a better picture of the population of exoplanets in our galaxy. It also sets new records for the farthest known exoplanets, offering a glimpse of some different galactic neighborhoods far away from the 5,500 already known exoplanets. Placed in a halo orbit around Sun-Earth Lagrange point L2, Roman carries two scientific instruments. The first is a wide-field instrument, a 300-megapixel camera providing multi-band visible to near-infrared images, able to capture 100 times the area of Hubble's camera. Roman also features 1,500 times the surveying speed of that earlier telescope. Its second instrument is the coronagraphic instrument, CGI, a high-contrast coronagraph designed to achieve a part per billion suppression of incoming starlight, enabling the detection and imaging of planets with a visual separation of as little as 0.15 arcseconds from their host stars. In addition to its two primary missions, Roman performed stellar seismology studies on 1 million giant stars. This involves analyzing brightness changes caused by sound waves echoing through a star's gaseous interior to learn about its structure, age, and other properties. It also identifies over 1,000 neutron stars, hundreds of stellar mass black holes, and thousands of Kuiper belt objects, including some as small as 9.7 kilometers or 6 miles across, about 1% of Pluto's diameter. The combination of its gigantic field of view and ultra-precise coronagraph makes the Roman Space Telescope a unique and powerful tool for astrophysics, contributing to many exciting discoveries in the late 2020s and early 2030s. The next topic is the asteroid 1999 AN10 makes a close approach. 1999 AN10 is an asteroid of the Apollo group, a collection of Earth-crossing bodies, many of which are large enough and can drift close enough to Earth to be considered potentially hazardous. It was discovered by U.S. scientists on the 13th of January 1999. The object was estimated to have a diameter of up to 1,800 meters, or 5,905 feet, or about a mile, enough to cause continent-scale devastation should an impact occur on Earth. AN10 circles the Sun every 643 days and twice each year passes the Earth's local neighborhood. On the 7th of August 2027, it makes a particularly close approach as it comes within just 0.0026 astronomical units, or 390,000 kilometers, or 240,000 miles, about the same as the distance between the Earth and Moon. The asteroid reaches a peak apparent magnitude of 7.3, bright enough to be visible with binoculars. Its orbit remains dangerously close for the next 600 years. So we better be on the lookout for that.
That's true.
The Square Kilometer Array begins science operations is our next topic. Humanity's view of the universe is greatly expanded with the completion of a major new observatory. The Square Kilometer Array, SKA, is a radio telescope with a combined collecting area of approximately 1 kilometer. It operates over a wide range of frequencies, and its size makes it 50 times more sensitive than any other comparable instrument. By utilizing advanced processing technology, it can survey the sky more than 10,000 times faster than ever before. With additional stations extending to a distance of 3,000 kilometers from a concentrated central core, it continues radio astronomy's tradition of providing the highest resolution images in all of astronomy. First light is achieved in 2027, and the telescope is fully operational by 2030. Direct flights from Sydney to London and New York. In 2027, Australia's national airline, Qantas, begins Project Sunrise flights. The new service, described as the final frontier of long-haul travel, enables direct nonstop flights from Sydney to New York and to London and New York, connecting Eastern Australia to major global cities without the need for intermediate stopovers. The Sydney-London journey takes about 20 hours, making it the world's longest regularly scheduled commercial passenger flight. Despite the extreme distance, the nonstop service cuts total travel time by up to 4 hours compared with previous routings that required at least one layover, while also reducing the physical and psychological burden of multiple takeoffs, landings, and airport transfers. Qantas had already taken a major step toward ultra-long-haul travel in March 2018 when it launched nonstop flights from Perth to London. That route ended the long-standing gap between Europe and Oceania, marking the first time all inhabited continents, excluding Antarctica, were connected by direct commercial flights. Project Sunrise extends the achievement to Australia's east coast, representing one of the final milestones in a century-long expansion of air travel. The scale of this progress becomes especially striking when viewed historically. Qantas carried its first passenger in 1922 aboard an Avro 504 biplane on a short domestic flight within Queensland. By 1935, journeys between Sydney and London took about 12 days and involved more than 30 stopovers across Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Advances in aircraft performance, navigation, and global infrastructure steadily reduced travel times over subsequent decades, culminating in direct intercontinental routes spanning nearly half the planet. Project Sunrise relies on a dedicated fleet of specially configured Airbus A350-1000 aircrafts designed specifically for ultra-long-haul operations. Qantas receives its first aircraft in late 2026 following delays linked to aircraft certification, supply chain disruptions, and the complexity of modifying fuel systems and cabin layouts for journeys lasting more than 20 hours. These factors push the start of commercial services from an original 2025 target into 2027. Each Project Sunrise aircraft features an unusually low seat count of 238, prioritizing passenger comfort over capacity. Cabin interiors reflect extensive medical and scientific research into long-duration flight, incorporating improved lighting, increased seat pitch, quieter cabins, and a dedicated well-being zone that encourages movement and stretching during flight. Advanced HEPA filtration systems refresh the cabin air every 2 to 3 minutes, removing more than 99.9% of airborne particles. As part of this climate strategy, Qantas commits to offsetting the net emissions of Project Sunrise flights from day one, consistent with its longer-term target of reaching net zero carbon emissions by 2050. With services now underway, Project Sunrise marks a defining moment in the evolution of commercial aviation, shrinking global distances while pushing aircraft endurance to its practical limits. User replaceable batteries are mandated in the EU is another event that we anticipate taking place in 2027. During the 2010s, manufacturers of smartphones, tablets, laptops, and other devices increasingly made batteries non-removable. When Apple introduced new MacBooks with sealed-in batteries, it greatly improved their battery life and established a trend that other companies soon followed. The Samsung Galaxy S5, released in 2014, became one of the last flagship phones with a removable battery, after which permanently built-in non-replaceable batteries became the norm. Several motivations lay behind this change. For instance, without the need to accommodate a removable battery compartment, designs could be simpler and devices made both slimmer and lighter. Batteries could take on different physical forms and be larger, charge more quickly, and handle much greater number of charge cycles. However, this trend met resistance due to the inconvenience and number of potential issues. If sealed-in batteries failed, it would require sending the device back to the vendor or technician, causing significant delays for users. In some cases, if the battery swelled over time, it might damage sensitive components of the device. Users criticized what they increasingly saw as a form of planned obsolescence, while environmental campaigners also noted its contribution to the growing mountains of e-waste. These and other problems led to calls for regulation to reverse this trend. In 2023, responding to these concerns, the European Union proposed a mandate for user-replaceable batteries in all devices by 2027. New rules would cover the design, production, and recycling of all rechargeable batteries sold within the EU, stipulating that for portable batteries used in devices such as phones, tablets, and cameras, consumers must be able to easily remove and replace them. This would require a significant design rethink by manufacturers. Additionally, the European Parliament had plans for non-rechargeable batteries with a phase-out to be decided on by 2030. And I would just like to take a moment and compliment the EU for this policy. It does seem to make technology better. Next 2D barcodes are ubiquitous in retail. The first traditional barcode was invented in the 1940s by Norman Joseph Woodland and Bernard Silver, two graduate students in Philadelphia in the United States. Their original design consisted of a series of concentric circles that could be read by a scanner using ultraviolet light. In the 1960s, Woodland and Silver refined their design and developed the modern barcode, consisting of a series of lines and spaces of varying widths. They also developed a scanner that could read the barcode using visible light, and a system for assigning unique identification numbers to products. This would later become known as the UPC, the Universal Product Code. In 1972, the UK supermarket chain Sainsbury's introduced a barcode system to help manage inventory more efficiently using the UPC. In 1974, a pack of Wrigley's chewing gum became the first product to be sold with a barcode when scanned at a supermarket in Ohio in the United States. Barcodes soon became an integral part of the retail industry, used to identify and track products in stores and warehouses around the world. In 1994, Toyota subsidiary Denso Wave invented the first 2D barcode, embedding data on both the horizontal and vertical axes as a way to track vehicle parts during the manufacturing process. The quick response QR code, which the company developed, saw widespread adoption in Japan, alongside many other types of 2D barcode, also known as matrix codes. In contrast to linear, one-dimensional barcodes, this new format could represent far more data per unit area. Whereas a standard barcode typically only had 12 to 20 digits, a QR code had capacity for more than 4,000 alphanumeric or 7,000 numeric characters. More significantly, however, the number of possible combinations became astronomically higher. UPCA, the most common of 1D barcodes, had about a trillion 10 to the 12th possible combinations. The initial version of QR codes released in 1994 featured 21 by 21 modules, black and white squares, which increased to 177 by 177 with version 40 in 2015. This enabled 10 to the 9,403rd possible combinations, more than the total number of atoms in the known universe, ensuring that humanity would never run out of codes. After gaining popularity in Japan, QR codes and other 2D barcode formats began spreading to countries around the world. In the 2010s, they became even more widely used due to the prevalence of smartphones with cameras and code scanning capabilities. The COVID-19 pandemic of 2020 further increased their appeal as a touchless system to display information. With 2D barcodes already widespread in manufacturing, warehousing, logistics, healthcare, and other industries, attention now focused on the retail sector to make its older barcode system fit for the 21st century. These efforts included Sunrise 2027, proposed by GS1 US, a nonprofit standards organization, along with initiatives in other countries aiming to have all shops and point-of-sale POS terminals set up and ready to accept 2D barcodes. By 2027, this upgrade is largely complete. The use of 2D barcodes in retail offers more data capacity, interactive capabilities, enhanced tracking and traceability, and cost effectiveness. For instance, more information can be stored about a product such as nutritional content, ingredient lists, and allergen information. This can be crucial for customers with dietary restrictions and allergies, and helps promote transparency and trust between customers and food producers. The codes can be used to create interactive experiences for customers, such as providing recipes, games, or discounts and loyalty rewards. They also help shops and food producers gather valuable data and insights into customer preferences and behavior. Individual food products can be tracked and traced throughout the supply chain from farm to table. This helps improve food safety and quality control, and can also help reduce food waste by identifying and addressing inefficiencies in the supply chain. Information can also be provided on sustainability practices. The next event, which is quite interesting that may occur in 2027, is the autopsy report for Elvis Presley being made public. Elvis Presley was one of the 20th century's most iconic singers, often referred to as the King of Rock and Roll or simply the King. After cementing his place among the legends of American music, his final years were marked by serious health problems. These were aggravated and possibly caused by drug dependence. On the 16th of August 1977, Presley was found unresponsive on the bathroom floor of his Graceland home. Attempts to revive him failed, and death was officially pronounced at 3:30 p.m. at Baptist Memorial Hospital, Tennessee. Controversy surrounded the autopsy and its aftermath as the competence and ethics of two medical professionals were questioned. One had his license permanently revoked after charges were brought by the Tennessee Medical Board. An overdose of prescription drugs, including codeine, Demerol, morphine, and Valium, to name a few, had apparently caused Elvis's heart to beat irregularly and then stop. However, rumors of a cover-up were rife as the exact cause of death remained unclear. Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, had the complete autopsy report sealed for a period of 50 years. The controversy surrounding the autopsy, as well as the various other questionable circumstances, led theorists to proclaim that the king was still alive. After his funeral, there were numerous alleged sightings of Presley. A long-standing theory among fans was that he had faked his own death. Some fans noted apparent discrepancies in the death certificate, a curious different spelling of the middle name on his gravestone, him reportedly cutting family members out of his will shortly before he died, rumors of a wax dummy in the original coffin, and numerous accounts of Presley's planning a diversion so he could retire in peace. The full autopsy report is finally made public on the 16th of August, 2027, exactly half a century after Presley's death. The next event that we anticipate may occur is Bougainville becomes an independent country. Bougainville, a region to the east of Papua New Guinea's mainland, was first inhabited by humans in about 27,000 before the Common Era. During the colonial period, it was occupied and administered at various times by Australians and Japanese. It was the scene of major land and naval battles in World War II between the Allies and the Empire of Japan. After the Japanese surrendered, Australia resumed administrative control of Papua and New Guinea, including Bougainville, under a UN trusteeship. However, Papua New Guinea established its sovereignty in 1975 and became an independent Commonwealth realm, with Elizabeth II as the queen. A few factions in Bougainville had already demanded independence and unilaterally declared it, now naming their territory the Republic of the North Solomons, although this was not internationally recognized. Following 11 months of negotiations with Prime Minister Michael Somare, Bougainville agreed to remain part of Papua New Guinea after being granted a degree of autonomy through a provincial system of government. A civil war erupted in 1988, triggered by grievances primarily related to the social and environmental impacts of the Panguna copper and gold mine, which was operated by an Australian company. One of the world's largest, most profitable open-cut mines, it produced 45% of Papua New Guinea's export revenue and 12% of its GDP. But although its government was a 20% shareholder, the local population received only 1% of the profit share, which led to growing resentment. The conflict escalated into a full-scale civil war involving Bougainville Revolutionary Army rebels, Papua New Guinea Defense Forces, and various other factions. The war lasted for 10 years and was devastating, resulting in an estimated 15,000 to 20,000 deaths and displacing many more. In 2001, a peace agreement was reached, leading to the creation of an autonomous Bougainville government. This granted the region greater autonomy and paved the way for a future referendum on independence. As part of the agreement, Bougainville would be allowed to hold a non-binding vote to gauge public sentiment on independence versus greater autonomy within Papua New Guinea. On 23rd November 2019, Bougainville finally held its referendum, in which an overwhelming 98.3% voted in favor of full independence as opposed to merely greater autonomy. This result set the stage for ongoing consultations between Bougainville and the government of Papua New Guinea about its future status. Negotiations formally began on 17th of May 2020. President of Bougainville, Ismail Taroma, stated a desire to see Bougainville become independent by June of 2025. Papua New Guinea's Prime Minister James Marape cautioned against setting a specific timetable. On 7th of July 2021, it was announced that Bougainville would become independent by the year 2027, pending ratification from Papua New Guinea's parliament. Today, in 2027, the world is welcoming its newest country, Bougainville, which becomes the 196th member of the United Nations. The 20th century had seen worldwide geopolitical upheaval, resulting in the creation of dozens of new countries, but in the 21st century, this has been a much rarer event. Bougainville joins only a handful of other sovereign states that have emerged in recent decades: East Timor in 2002, Montenegro in 2006, Serbia in 2006 as well, and South Sudan in 2011. With that, that is an overview of what we expect to be the events of 2027. I'm going to ask my colleague what your thoughts are, Tony.
I think this is very interesting. I think we can have new nation. That's very interesting. It's also very interesting. We can have Elvis Presley finally revealed.
I agree with you. That will be quite interesting.
Battery can be really good because like if we can use replaceable batteries are good because like it's so much easier to buy new battery, so much easier than buying new phone.
Absolutely. Well said. I agree on all points. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive into this year. If you want to find more information on who I am and what I do, you should go to YouTube at youtube.com and type Rabbi Rothschild, R-A-B space R-O-T-H-S-C-H-I-L-D into the search, and be sure to filter by live to view my 24/7 365 live streams. Look at all these live streams that I have going all the time. I have more content than any person in global history. Moreover, if you want to connect with me directly, feel free to join my Discord, discord.me/Rabbi. You can find all of my social media at linktree.com/Rabbi Rothschild, and you can find my writings at rabbirothschild.medium.com and rabbirothschild.blogspot.com. I highly encourage you to type Rabbi Rothschild or hashtag Viral Rabbi into any search engine, social media, or AI search and find more content than you've ever found on any individual ever. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Tony.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Rothschild, for being our guest today. If you like to watch more from our series and more of my podcast episodes, please visit youtube.com/LifePodcast network and find all of my social media and other platforms at linktree.com/life. podcast. We would really appreciate it if you could like, comment, and subscribe to our content, including this episode. We are looking forward to see you next time. Thank you again for watching, and I see you in the future.